You don't miss her. You miss who you were when you believed love could save you, and that belief just shattered quietly inside your chest. Right now, you're stuck not because you love deeply, but because your mind is still trying to finish a story that already ended. As a psychologist, I see this pattern constantly in men who think time should have healed them, yet feel frozen in place. Breakups don't trap you because of the woman, they trap you because of the version of yourself you built around her. When she left, that version had nowhere to go. So it lingers, replaying conversations, rereading memories, waiting for closure that will never arrive. Here's the uncomfortable truth most men never hear. You're not grieving the loss of her, you're grieving the collapse of an identity you invested years constructing. You learned how to be a boyfriend, a provider, a protector, a future partner. Your routines, your motivation, even your sense of worth quietly reorganized themselves around that role. When the relationship ended, your nervous system didn't get the memo. It still wakes up expecting purpose, direction, someone to move toward. Instead, it finds emptiness, and emptiness feels like danger to the brain. So your mind does what it's designed to do. It loops, not because you're weak, but because your brain would rather feel pain than nothing. Pain at least confirms you're still attached to something meaningful. This is why moving on feels impossible. You don't know who you are without the role you lost. And until that question is answered, your psyche will keep dragging you backward, not out of love, but out of survival. Most advice tells you to distract yourself, date again, or think positive. That fails because distraction doesn't rebuild identity. It only postpones the confrontation with the emptiness underneath. Right now, you're not broken. You are between selves. The old one dissolved, and the new one hasn't been consciously chosen yet. That limbo is psychologically terrifying. Your mind keeps reaching backward because backward at least feels familiar. But familiar doesn't mean safe, and it certainly doesn't mean alive. The reason you feel stuck is not because you loved wrong, but because you never learned how to define yourself without attachment. That skill was outsourced to the relationship, and when it ended, the system crashed. This isn't a flaw, it's a developmental gap. No one taught you how to grieve a self, not just a partner. So you sit there wondering why months pass and nothing changes. Change requires replacement, not erasure. Until something new is built, the old keeps haunting you. And that's where your work truly begins. Not with forgetting, not with numbing, but with understanding the part of you that disappeared when the relationship ended. Because once you see that, you stop chasing ghosts and start rebuilding a life that doesn't collapse when someone walks away. That shift is painful, slow, and necessary if you want real freedom again. And it starts here, now. What keeps you stuck isn't memory, it's hope wearing a disguise. The kind of hope you don't consciously admit to, but quietly protect. The hope that one day she'll realize what she lost. The hope that healing means returning to who you were before the pain. The hope that if you understand everything deeply enough, the ache will dissolve on its own. That hope is the invisible chain around your ankles. Your brain is wired to seek resolution. When a relationship ends without clear emotional closure, the mind treats it like an unfinished task. Neuroscientifically, unfinished emotional loops demand more attention than completed ones. So every song, every place, every quiet moment becomes a trigger. Not because she was perfect, but because your mind is still trying to solve the puzzle of why it ended and what it says about you. The deeper the bond, the more the brain searches for meaning. And meaning, when left unanswered, becomes self-blame. Men tend to internalize breakups differently. You don't cry because you lost her. You freeze because you lost direction. Masculine identity is often tied to progress, momentum, and building something over time. A breakup feels like a demolition. Years of emotional labor reduced to rubble overnight, and instead of grieving openly, you interrogate yourself silently. What did I miss? What could I have done better? Where did I fail? Those questions feel productive, but they're actually keeping you trapped in the past, rehearsing a role that no longer exists. Here's what no one tells you: the version of you who loved her was context dependent. He existed inside that relationship. Trying to resurrect him outside of it will only deepen your sense of loss. That man is gone, not because he was inadequate, but because the environment that shaped him no longer exists. Growth doesn't mean going back. It means allowing that version to die with dignity. And death psychologically demands mourning, not analysis. Another reason you feel stuck is because pain has become familiar. Familiar pain feels safer than unfamiliar freedom. Letting go means stepping into uncertainty, and uncertainty terrifies the nervous system. As long as you hold on to the hurt, you don't have to risk hope again. You don't have to risk rejection, vulnerability, or rebuilding from zero. So your mind convinces you that staying stuck is thoughtful, loyal, or deep. It isn't. It's protective. This is where many men confuse attachment with love. Attachment is about regulation. Love is about choice. After the breakup, your attachment system is in panic mode, craving the emotional regulation she once provided. That craving masquerades as love, but it's really withdrawal. And just like any withdrawal, it distorts perception. You remember the highs vividly and minimize the incompatibilities. Your brain edits reality to justify the craving. Moving on doesn't start with confidence or motivation. It starts with honesty. You must admit that part of you is afraid to let go because letting go means facing who you are without the relationship scaffolding holding you up. That fear doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. But staying there too long will hollow you out. Healing begins when you stop asking how to get her out of your head and start asking who you are becoming in her absence. That question is uncomfortable, but it's the doorway out. Staying stuck after a breakup often feels passive, like something happening to you. But psychologically, it's an active process. Your mind is working overtime to preserve a sense of coherence. When a relationship ends, especially one you emotionally invested in, the brain experiences it as a threat to continuity. Continuity is how you know who you are from one day to the next. When that snaps, the psyche scrambles to stitch reality back together. Rumination becomes the needle and thread. You replay moments not because they were magical, but because they anchor you to a timeline where you still made sense. Before the breakup, you knew your role. After it, time feels distorted. Days blur. Motivation drops. Sleep changes. That's not weakness, it's grief at a neurological level. Functional MRI studies show that emotional rejection activates the same brain regions as physical pain. Your body is responding as if something vital was torn away, because in a way, it was. Men are rarely taught how to metabolize this kind of loss. Instead, you're taught to outwork it, suppress it, or replace it. So you go to the gym harder, grind longer hours, chase distractions. Those things help temporarily, but they don't resolve the core injury. They build armor, not integration, and armor gets heavy when worn too long. What actually keeps you anchored to the past is unresolved meaning. You're not asking, why did it end? You're asking, what does this say about my value? If the relationship failed, your mind quietly assumes you failed. That assumption is corrosive. It seeps into future dating, self-trust, and confidence. You hesitate, overthink, or emotionally withdraw, not because you're healed, but because you're protecting a wound you never treated. Here's the truth from years of clinical work. Closure doesn't come from the other person. It comes from self-authorship. As long as she remains the narrator of how the story ended, you stay trapped in her chapter. Healing begins when you reclaim authorship and decide what the loss means on your terms. Not as a verdict on your worth, but as a turning point in your development. This is where identity reconstruction begins. You don't ask, how do I get over her? You ask, what parts of myself did I abandon to keep that relationship alive? Many men realize they compromised boundaries, postponed goals, or muted their instincts to maintain harmony. After the breakup, those abandoned parts don't disappear. They wait, and the pain you feel is often the signal calling you back to them. Moving forward requires grieving honestly, not heroically. It means admitting disappointment, anger, relief, and sadness without judging yourself for any of it. Emotional processing isn't dramatic, it's deliberate. It's sitting with the discomfort long enough for it to move through you instead of around you. When you allow that, something unexpected happens. The grip loosens, not all at once, but gradually. You stop waking up thinking about her first. You start thinking about direction. Energy returns, not because you forced it, but because it's no longer being consumed by resistance. The goal isn't to erase the past, it's to integrate it. When you do, the breakup stops being the thing that broke you and becomes the thing that clarified you. And clarity is what finally sets you in motion again. There comes a moment in every man's life when holding on costs more than letting go. Not emotionally at first, but existentially. You start to feel smaller, less alive, less curious. You're functioning, but not expanding. That's the real danger of staying stuck after a breakup. It doesn't just hurt, it slowly shrinks your future. By now, you may have realized something uncomfortable. Part of you has been waiting for an apology, an explanation, a sign, or even a new relationship to rescue you from the discomfort of rebuilding alone. But no one is coming to restore what was lost. And that's not a threat, it's an invitation to become the source of stability you once outsourced. Psychologically, this is the transition from attachment-based identity to self-directed identity. It's where many men either evolve or repeat the same relational cycle with a different face. If you don't consciously rebuild, you unconsciously recreate. You choose partners who feel familiar, not healthy. You mistake intensity for connection. You bond over wounds instead of values. And months or years later, you find yourself here again, asking the same questions. Moving on isn't about indifference. It's about integration. You don't erase what mattered, you extract the lesson without living inside the loss. This requires one radical shift. Stop asking what the relationship gave you and start asking what it revealed about you, your attachment style, your emotional patterns, your boundaries, your unmet needs. That information is gold if you're brave enough to face it. As a psychologist, I've watched men transform when they stop chasing emotional relief and start building emotional capacity. Capacity means you can feel deeply without collapsing. You can love without losing yourself. You can be alone without feeling abandoned. That strength isn't loud or aggressive. It's quiet, grounded, and deeply attractive, not just to others, but to life itself. The stuckness fades when your future becomes more compelling than your past. Not busier, not louder, but more aligned. Alignment means your actions match your values. Your relationships support your growth instead of replacing it. Your sense of worth comes from self-respect, not validation. When that alignment begins, the breakup loses its power over you. It becomes a chapter, not the headline. So here's the question I want you to sit with and answer honestly in the comments. If you were no longer defined by who you lost, who would you choose to become next? Write it out. Name it. Let it be imperfect. And if this spoke to something you've been carrying quietly, like the video, subscribe for deeper psychological truths, and share this with a friend who needs to hear it but doesn't know how to say it out loud yet.